161st Street, Yankee Stadium.
Swung on a hit in the air. The deep center. Gets back. Away back. She is gone. He made the catch. He made the play.
All right, welcome back to the Boys of 161st Street episode. Not sure because we're recording these roll calls in advance, in bulk, so not sure when this is releasing, but we're talking about Gleyber Torres this episode. Some of you may know him as the guy from 2019 who hit 38 home runs, I think it was, and took the world by storm. He's a phenom. In the same conversation as guys coming up like Acuna, maybe not as much, but Acuna, Soto, Tatis, those guys, he was relatively close in conversation with because he was the group of young phenoms. He's no longer even remotely close to those guys. This is a big year for him. We've been saying that every season. I feel like every season is like, oh, this is a make or break year. And all of the old just floating heads on TV will tell you like, oh, absolute make or break season for Gleyber. I think this is the one time they're actually right.
No, if he comes out this year and does what he does, like what he has done the last 2 years, then I don't want to say his career's over, but his days of being a well, those are probably already over anyway, but his days of being one of the household names as a Yankee, I think, is pretty much over.
I mean, he is 25, and we're getting to the point where he's no longer like, can you believe he's 22, or can you believe all that stuff? So it is make or break for him this year in terms of how he's viewed at an MLB level, because once he continues to play like he did last year and even the year before that, then he's just cemented. It's hard to turn away from. It's hard to become like an all-star level person in other people's minds after 2 or 3 of these mediocre years, especially when he goes from 38 home runs, albeit juice balls, to I think he had 3 last year.
No, he had like 9, but
he had 9, but he had like 2 for like the longest time, and then that was So
he didn't hit his first home run until like June.
Yeah, I'll read out his stats from 2021 so we could put a bow on that and hopefully never look at it again. He had 516 plate appearances. He had 119 hits, batted .259, 9 home runs, 14 stolen bases, which is actually kind of higher than I thought he would have. 51 RBIs. Not good. Not good. He was a little bit better from the left side, against lefties, I should say. He was batting .293 against lefties, .245 against righties. Yeah, not very good. If you look at the sabermetric stuff, he's 15th in average exit velocity, 15th percentile. 15th percentile, excuse me. Yeah,
that's a huge
That's
difference.
A very big difference. 83rd percentile in chase rate, a hard hit percentage, 26th percentile, barrel percentage, middle of the pack, 43rd percentile. The only thing he was very good at, he was 82nd percentile in the max exit velocity, which... I mean,
that means he hit like one ball hard.
Yeah, and outs above average, he was 1st percentile.
That's not good.
No, not what you want to see out of Gleyber Torres.
Out of your starting franchise cornerstone shortstop at the time.
Yeah, so that is 2021. If you want to get into the conversation on the position that he's going to play, because I know you have numbers specifically when he switched from. I don't even want to say switched because he was more of benched from shortstop to second base.
He was 100% benched. He had like a .950 fielding percentage in the majors. That's just unacceptable. He had 18 errors. 18 errors in like 108 games at short. That's bad. That's very bad.
And before we get into those numbers too, when we talk about shortstops, and I thought last year and every year before that is enough now to probably put a bow on him being a shortstop, and it'll be a shortstop. I don't think he is that, but now you get a report from Boone that says he is going to spend some time at shortstop right now. Gio Urshela is the shortstop on the roster, and I think we are releasing this one tomorrow, so we can chat a little bit about this. We don't have a shortstop on the roster right now, and I hate that Boone is now going out there and just he's saying what he has to say because he just doesn't sign people. So he's saying, yeah, I think we can win with the current roster we have. We don't have a shortstop on the roster, so we cannot.
Don't have a shortstop. We don't have a center fielder. We don't. And I know this is a Gleyber episode, but just on those comments, we don't have a shortstop. We don't have a center fielder. For argument's sake, we don't have a catcher. We don't have a 5-starter, and we have a bullpen that imploded every game. So no, we can't win with the team we have now.
This is also the team that just barely made a wild card last year.
It took a 13-game winning streak out of just like pure horseshit luck to make it to a wild card, and then you got your ass handed to you by the Red Sox.
Murph, do you think he's a shortstop?
No, not at all. His days of shortstop.
Can't play ball.
When Gleyber, but the problem is I don't know where he fits in the infield because if we're gonna get where's DJ fit in the infield? Then if we're gonna pull,
I think DJ's our third.
Oh,
that's he's our third baseman. Because me and Chandler were talking about that before we got on the air. I had the same question. I think as it sits right now, if Gio actually is going to be our shortstop of the future, of this season, which right now it seems like he is, unless we sign Correa or, Correa
I
or
hope
Story.
This is so outdated tomorrow. That would be the best.
We're releasing
scenario.
it tomorrow. Yeah, best case scenario, that something would have to happen within the hours 2 hours, because that's when we're gonna post this shit. So
that makes me feel a lot better about not signing a shortstop because I kind of completely forgot that DJ can play third.
If the roster
you're
sits
forcing
as it
Gleyber out of the infield if you sign a shortstop.
would that force him out of the infield, or would that
Gio's
force
gone.
over that? I think that would force. I think
Gio's
that would
gone
force
before
DJ
Gleyber?
to first. If you spend big money on a shortstop, you probably are using DJ as your first
what if
baseman all day.
What if they
That's
trade for
also
Olsen?
true,
Because
but what if they
apparently,
trade? Yeah,
I don't think both happens though.
I do.
I think
I
could
if
see
they,
them trading for Olsen and getting.
I think trading for Olsen's way more likely than signing a shortstop, but they have to sign.
Well, the way I look at it is I feel like it's either one or the other. If you get Freeman or Olsen, then you're not going to go after a shortstop, and then Gio is the shortstop. But if you go after a shortstop, then you're probably not going to get a first baseman. You stick with Voit at first, and you push.
Voigt's not in this.
You put Voit as the DH if Stanton can play the outfield, and you put DJ at first, and then Gio stays there, and then Gleyber can play second.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
either way, this would be an awesome problem
hypotheticals.
to have.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to have this problem because, we're 3 days out of the lockout now where the frenzy was supposed to happen. That Ninja Cashman was supposed to happen. We haven't done a goddamn thing. Oh, just kidding. We re-signed Tim LeCastro. Big fucking whoop. So
now we have our center fielder.
yeah.
Of the future.
Our center fielder coming off an ACL injury whose only tool was speed.
So why don't you bring up the numbers on Gleyber when he was moved from shortstop to second?
Okay, so prior to getting benched, I say getting benched, but getting moved to second, he was hitting 249, 320 on base, 87 WRC plus, and a 349 slugging.
That's at shortstop.
That's a shortstop. So that was up to September 13th. So do what you may with the sample size, but he is noticeably better at second. It's a whole career thing, but whatever. Back to last season. He also, once he moved over, he hit 318 with a W37. Oh, Jesus Christ, dude. Talk.
WRC plus.
A WRC plus of 137, almost a 400 on base, an 800 something OPS, it's 470 slugging, 100 points higher. Strikeout percentage went down 10%. I think he's a head case, man. We've talked about it over and over and over. If he's at second base, he can actually focus on hitting, and he's not an amazing second baseman, but at least he can get his head out of his ass and do something.
If he's a head case, do you think it's more of playing second versus short, or do you think what do you think has more of an impact on it, I should say? Do you think it's his place in the batting order, or do you think it's his position on the field?
I think it's his position on the field. I don't think it's necessarily the batting order. I think he just focuses too much on shortstop because you see him. He triple clutches before throwing the ball. He just makes stupid fucking mistakes over and over and over. Like the Tigers game. It's my favorite clip to show how shitty he was at shortstop. Just routine ground ball. He just stopped. It just hit him in the fucking wrist and bounced into the outfield, and he just stopped and stared at it, and 2 runners scored. And we lost. It was against the Tigers.
I bring that up because his numbers, and we've noticed this is just based on the eye test we were watching last season and seasons before. It feels like whenever he hits later on in the order, he's like a head case, like you said. So I feel like he has less pressure on him, and he, like I said, just the eye test, he feels like he's doing better. But when you look at the numbers, batting first, second, third, and fourth, he is hitting respectively. He's hitting 100, 143, 224, and 227 in the first 4 places in the batting order. When you go to 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, he is hitting 299, 281, 231, and 286. It's damn clear, with the outlier of batting 7th was 231. Like, all of those numbers are borderline 300. And those are the majority of his at-bats, actually. So the majority of his at-bats last year were spent in the 5-hole and 6-hole with 200 plate appearances and 131. The rest of the spots are about 50 plate appearances. But he's his best in the 5-6 spot. So I personally think that's where we should stick him again this year. That's obvious looking at the numbers. But I think if you put him the best Gleyber Torres we can get based on these two things, we could put him in the 5-6 spot and put him at second base. I think those two things allow him to not be a head case, and then we could potentially just go out and play ball. I don't know. I think he could be good, but yeah.
I think it depends on who else you signs, where you put him in the batting. I mean, fuck, right now he's like our third best hitter, and that is not a compliment to him. That's an insult to the team. If we actually go out and get an Olsen or a Correa or both, which that's not going to happen, but I'm going to keep my hopes up until they're officially on another team, then you can bat him in the bottom of the order. Right now, you have to bat him fifth out of necessity.
It's true.
I mean, who else are you going to put there? Tim LeCastro? No.
Well, no.
Gary Sanchez? Fuck no.
No, I think he, at the very least, 5-6 we're talking. Those are his best spots. I think that's where he sticks around, because 1 through 4 is going to be, assuming no Freddie Freeman or anything right now, it would be Judge. It would be DJ Judge, probably
Stanton.
Brett Gardner.
Gallo.
Honestly,
No,
that's
Gallo.
Gallo.
You're forgetting about Gallo. It'd probably be Gallo then Stan.
Gallo, then Stanton, and 5 would be Gleyber. I wouldn't be upset with that. So,
no, not at all.
That's probably what's going to be.
Do you have him like hitting like 8-9? Because if
his 8-9, he hits 8th. He hits 286.
I'm fine with that.
That's not a big sample size. That was 8 at bats. So his majority of his at bats are like the vast majority are 5-6, and that's where he's going to hit. I think.
I just think I do also like again, this is all very big hypothetical if we were to actually nut up and sign somebody. I think if you have the protection around him that of those guys, because right now, who was sandwiching him in the order last year? I mean, if he's hitting 5, 6, 7, whatever, he's got Gary Sanchez behind him. Nobody's scared of Gary Sanchez. You can just attack Gleyber, stuff like that. So I don't know. That would be something I'd be curious to see. I know we could probably pull that up, but that would take, we're not going to go through all 162 games of who he was sandwiched between. But last year, in particular, there was not a lot of protection for him.
No, there wasn't. But I will say, even last year during a not so great year, I was trying to look at some of his clutch numbers, and the splits of with runners on base, so bases loaded, he bats 333. Late in close games, he bats 354. That's a pretty big sample size there too. 2 outs, he bats 281. In the ninth, in the 8th inning, he bats 354. 9th inning, 260. Like his clutch numbers are pretty fucking good, and that's really good when you consider the difference of like where he hits in other spots, because his average is 260, and all of those numbers, like those are pulling his numbers up overall. So that's pretty good to see. Yeah. I mean, the moment's never been too big for him. Like he's had a lot of clutch moments. I have this burn in my brain when he hit that. Well, he just went off against the Astros in the ALCS in 2019.
Game 1 and Game 2, he was a fucking machine.
Yeah. He's got it. He's
got all
clutch.
Those Red Sox home runs. Yeah. That just makes you just wish that he could fucking. And that's why I think you got to keep him at second, keep him at 5th, get rid of all of the head case stuff. And if
those were 2019 numbers,
I don't think he's ever going to be a bona fide superstar. I don't think that's going to happen. But I think if you put him in the right situation, then he can thrive. Which I think that's a fair thing to say, and that might be a no shit thing. I don't know. You can tell me, but I think he's a player that if you eliminate the outside stuff, he matures a little bit. He's not making the stupid fucking mistakes, the stupid, lazy, it's actually a base hit, but he's just fucking walking to first base. If you can eliminate that, he can eliminate the dumb errors, stuff like that. I think he can be I think he can be a perennial all-star.
I remember last roll call, we talked about him being he was my favorite
MVP
to win MVP from the Yankees, at least. If I had to pick one, I would have picked him. Absolutely not going to be that this year. No. I am oddly confident that he is going to have a bounce back year. And by bounce back, I don't mean he's going to be 2019, because I don't think he ever will be that again. But I do hope the average goes up. Why don't we use this time to go over Zips projections then, because we can react to where we see that going above or below what they have him projected to do.
Okay. Let's see. Zips, and keep in mind Zips is a little conservative. That has him at 260, 332, 426 slash. I think
260 is right around his average for his career.
I think that's a little low. I think he could do better than that. I think
he's got a 268 career batting average.
I think happy and an optimistic projection would be 275.
It's better than he's done for his entire career. I don't know if he's...
But that's factoring in the last 2 years, which are horrible.
It's true. I do think I'm optimistic about his 2022 season.
He only hit above 275 in 2019, and he was only 3 points above it.
He didn't do it in 2018?
No, 2018 was 271.
Damn. Okay.
I don't think it was the batting average hasn't really ever been
Amazing.
No, it hasn't ever moved much. It's usually, even in a bad year, he hit 259, which is close to what he hits for his fucking career. So the issue last year, obviously, was the home run stuff. I mean, he had 9 home runs last year. What is he projected this upcoming season?
We have...
It was 23. 20?
Yeah. I think that's doable.
I think it's doable.
His let me find what I was looking at. His home run to fly ball ratio when he 2018, 2019 in his first career. So his career is 15.3%. 2018 he had a 17.9%, and 2019 he had a 21.5%. Last year he had a 6.9% home
That's
run to fly ball.
ridiculous.
So for the folks at home, define that advanced stat, Mr. Murphy.
It's home run to fly ball ratio. It is how many times you hit a home run versus how many times, basically how many of your fly balls end up being home runs.
Appreciate
Mr.
that.
Stat guy
No,
himself.
I just needed you the
Baseball
professor.
savant.
You are the baseball savant, so I wanted to make sure that
I mean,
it
last
didn't
year...
get lost on anybody, because that is a hard-hitting stat there, Murphy.
I'm interested to see if those power numbers go up at second. I think the average will go up naturally at second just because he'll get out of his head. But
I don't think the power
he hit
will
last
move.
year when he moved to second, he hit 2 home runs and 74 at bats, which isn't amazing. But before that, he hit 7 and 450.
I don't think moving to second will matter at all when it comes to the power. I think the average maybe, because that's a head case thing. I think
Yeah, but if you're
him
hitting
overall as a player, I'm not reading too much into the second base.
if you
move.
hit the,
No.
if you put bat on ball, you're gonna hit more home runs. Which
I
he
agree.
wasn't doing.
I just don't think the second. I'm not putting a lot of weight to the second base move. I think just as a year, I think he's gonna have a better year because it's just a new year, another year older, 25. He's been in the league for 4 years now. I think this is when you look at all these phenoms that break out, like Ronald Acuna and all the people that he was talked about with when they were growing up or coming up. It's not necessarily. It's very unique. Like they all broke out and were great out of the gate. Like this is his trajectory is if he were to have another breakout year this year, like that's the likely trajectory for a player. Like 25, 26, 27 year prime, that's when you start to be like that really good player. I think we're a little bit more disappointed in him because he did flash that very early on and then he kind of regressed back to where a 22-year-old, 23, 24-year-old would be at this point. And now like that's why I think we're disappointed in him.
He was also the number 1 prospect in baseball.
I agree, but I
years.
don't think it should be expected. I think that's
should.
that's the inherent disappointment that we have with him is just because he was good and now he dropped off a bunch from that one. I'll call it an outlier year because now if he started off not like at his regular 260 average and didn't hit for 38 home runs in 2019, then we wouldn't be super duper upset with him.
Yes, you would. He was the marquee player in the Chapman trade. He was the
true.
whole thing you brought over. He's the number 1 prospect in baseball for 3 years or so. Anything below, I won't say below 2019 because that's a borderline MVP season, but what he's done the last 2 years, that's not an expectation. For the pedigree he had coming up, you expect him to hit at least 260, 270. You expect him to hit home runs. You expect him to be able to at least competently field his position.
Yeah. One thing that's in his control is that hustle thing. 'Cause remember, Judge got on him for fucking not running out, and everybody got on him. I don't think he got benched for that, but he needs to
I think he got pulled in that game.
I think he did get pulled in that game, but he didn't really. He got a stern talking to from Judge and Boone and probably Brett
How
Gardner,
much
who will
worse
be-
do you think a stern talking to from Judge is than Boone?
I mean,
A lot worse.
Judge is the one that was. I mean, that's the Boone one is like, you got like Gleyber, could you please just hustle? He sounds like fucking Kermit the Frog. I've said it before, so I can't imagine it's very intimidating being talked to by Mr. Aaron Boone.
That's fair.
What were his before we wrap this one up? What were his rankings? The projections among second basemen for WAR.
19th.
So based on WAR, his projected WAR for 2022, he's 19th among second basemen.
It's not good.
Who is he around? Who are the people above and below him? Like right above and below, like 17 and 20 and those guys.
Colton Wong, Adam Frazier, Jeff McNeil.
See, he's probably. I think he gets negative WAR, so that pulls him down on defense. So the Colton Wong is one of the best defenders. So that probably pulls him up, but he's an absolute useless human being when it comes to the plate. So
I mean, he's projected to out-hit Gleyber in almost every stat.
it's not good company you want to be around. You don't want to be in all this to say it's not good company to be around.
No,
when you're Gleyber Torres, you don't want to be in that spot. I think he ends up. Where do you think he ends up among second basemen?
I think top 10, borderline top 10 is fair.
I agree.
Like, I don't think he's going to be a slam dunk shoe-in 8-9 guy, but I think he'll hover around that 10 spot for the year. Like, whenever they do the shredder projections and shit like that, I think after this season, going into 2023, he'll be one of the guys that he's teetering between making the list and not on MLB Network. I think that's fair.
I think it's fair. Second base isn't really a loaded.
It's getting
position.
there though.
Who names? What are some of the
Like
names?
Jonathan India, Ozzy Albies, Whit Merrifield, Jose Altuve.
Keep going.
Oh, okay. Jake Cronenworth, Polanco from the Twins.
He moved from short to second.
He played. He's
Who's
projected.
second?
I don't know. I'm just reading Fangraphs right now. That's what they say. Brandon Lau, Marcus Simeon.
Yeah, these guys are better than him.
Yeah.
Simeon's moved. Oh yeah. I mean, he's next to Seager now.
Yeah. What do you think his Sun probability factorial is? This is going to be a recurring segment here on the roll call episodes. It's basically if you're not new to the show, we have the Sun, and if you suck, you get sent there. So what is the Sun probability factorial? New sabermetric we just invented this year.
Is this
Murphy.
to be put on there at any time or
it's
to finish the
basically,
season there?
In layman's terms, it's a percentage likelihood they'll be sent to the Sun at any point this year.
Okay.
28.3%.
Okay.
34.
I'll meet somewhere in the middle. I think 31.7% chance that Gleyber Torres gets sent to the Sun.
So somewhere around the 30% mark, I would say.
I think if he gets sent to the Sun, I want to add this. It's going to be early in the season.
You think?
I don't think he has a very long leash. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, because another thing with the Sun is the leash, and obviously players like Gary and Gardy, when he's on the Yankees, they are quick to be sent to the Sun because of their pedigree or lack thereof. Gleyber, I think, has a little bit longer of a leash, a lot longer of a leash than those guys. But guys like Garrett Cole and Judge and stuff, like, they need to really, really fuck up to ever go to the Sun. I don't even see a chance of players like that going to the Sun. So
I think he's got something to prove this year. I think we see a different Gleyber Torres. I really do.
I do too. I think Gleyber Torres is going to have
I can
a very
see
good year.
him going for no reason at all other than a hunch. I see him struggling early on and then riding the ship and having a good year.
You heard it here first.
I don't know why.
I hope you're wrong. I hope he rights the ship in 2 days when they start spring training, or 4 days, or whatever the fuck the first game is.
All
It
right.
does seem like he's been working a lot during the lockout,
Everybody has.
which could be a good thing, could not be.
One thing, he doesn't look fat, so that's good.
The old famous tweet, he's in the best shape of his life. Gleyber Torres got one of those this year.
Did he this year?
Yeah.
Well, he was fat last year, so.
Yeah, he was a bit pudgy. Not that I'm the one to talk, but
No, we can talk. All right, that was Gleyber Torres.